after the U.S. warned all day of a full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, that it was imminent. Vladimir Putin has just addressed the Russian people moments ago, announcing what Putin called the start of a military special operation, in his words, to demilitarize Ukraine.
Today, the name Vladimir Putin is known worldwide, feared by some, respected by others, and a mystery to many. But how did a quiet Soviet spy, born in a poor Leningrad apartment, rise to become one of the most powerful and controversial leaders of the 21st century? That's something you will discover in this video. It all starts on October 7th, 1952, in the city we now call St. Petersburg. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin was a small, scrappy kid. His family lived in a communal apartment with no hot water, shared bathrooms, and constant post-war poverty. Putin spent much of his youth fighting, literally. He was small, but stubborn. Obsessed with judo and sambo, he trained relentlessly. Discipline became his armor. By the 1970s, Putin had found his calling: espionage. After earning a law degree, he was recruited by the KGB, the Soviet Union's infamous security agency, stationed in Dresden, East Germany. Putin wasn't a James Bond-style field agent. He mostly handled documents and low-level intelligence. But he watched, he learned, and most importantly, he waited. Then, 1989, the Berlin Wall falls. The Soviet Empire crumbles. Putin famously stood outside the KGB office in Dresden as angry crowds gathered, calling for help from Moscow. But Moscow was silent. Returning to Russia, Putin left the KGB, but never really left the world of politics and power. Throughout the chaotic 1990s, as Russia spiraled into economic disaster and mafia violence, Putin worked quietly inside the government. By 1998, he caught the eye of President Boris Yeltsin. Yeltsin needed loyal, reliable people, and Putin was both. In just 1 year, Putin climbed from obscure bureaucrat to head of the FSB, Russia's successor to the KGB, and then Prime Minister.
Most recently head of the shadowy Federal Security Service, formerly the KGB, longtime spy in Germany, secretary of Yeltsin's advisory council, the sensitive, powerful Kremlin inner circle, and fiercely loyal to the president. And in another surprise, Yeltsin today names Putin just not acting prime minister, but also his choice for president in next year's election.
Then, on New Year's Eve, 1999, something shocking happened.
Today, it is of utmost importance for me to convey this message to you. The pain experienced by each of you transformed into a deep, unbearable agony within me, piercing my heart and soul with an intensity that defies description. A night of sleeplessness.
Yeltsin unexpectedly resigned. And just like that, Vladimir Putin, former spy, became acting president of Russia. Many thought he'd be a temporary figure, just a placeholder, but they didn't know Putin. By March 2000, he won the presidential election, and from that moment on, he tightened his grip. Oligarchs who opposed him were jailed, exiled, or worse. Independent media was brought under state control.
In Russia today, the clear winner of the Russian presidential election, Vladimir Putin, began to establish the Putin era.
Vladimir Putin, the career spy, talks about establishing what he calls a dictatorship of the law, fight corrupt bureaucrats, and strengthen the central government.
Over the next 2 decades, Putin transformed Russia's political landscape. Some call him a defender of Russian pride. Others, a dictator consolidating power at any cost. But love him or hate him, one thing is clear. Vladimir Putin's rise wasn't luck. It was a calculated, relentless march from the shadows of Soviet intelligence to the very top of the Kremlin.